manatees. They're chubby, sleepy, extremely cute, appeared basically out of nowhere, and are now an integral part of Sky lore. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the plush and keychain that were released on Sky Shop, and if not, here it is, so you too can bear the curse of knowing these exist and are also out of stock. When the very first previews were coming out of Skyfest, I immediately needed it. So about 2 months ago, I attempted to make my own, which turned out okay-ish. Definitely kind of rough looking, for reasons I'll go into later. So when the final version came out on Skyshop and basically immediately sold out, I knew I wanted to have another go at it, especially because I had a few secret plans cooking up for the 2 Embers screening. So I tried to document as much of this as possible to take you on this journey from start to finish. So if you'd like to follow along and attempt this yourself, I've put a link to the final pattern for you to use and adjust as you'd like. My only warning is that you watch this through all the way first to see all the mistakes I made and not repeat them. So the first step is to, of course, get reference pictures. With reference pictures at different angles, you can make a quick mock-up of how you want your plush to be shaped. For my first plush, I had to go into the game and take a bunch of pictures, but luckily Skyshop had a ton of different angles of the official plush that I could use for my second try. You can grab a bunch of different angles for more accuracy, but the most important are front, top, and side, so you can get all 3 dimensions. Next, you want to pick your fabrics. I unfortunately don't have a beautiful fabric shop like this near where I live, so I had to go to my favorite fabric store, Joann's died, sorry. Go to Michael's, which didn't have any fabrics, and then go to Walmart and then buy the completely wrong type and color of fabric, and then travel to that other store. Of course, you can buy fabrics online much easier, but there are a ton of different types of fabric. So if you're like me and really picky about textures and that sort of thing, it's best to choose something that you're comfortable handling. I chose Minky for this project. The one in the shop actually has a slightly longer pile length, so it looks way fluffier than what I got. The ones in the game are actually pretty smooth unless they have really slicked down hair like seals, even though they're manatee. Is it the same for real manatees? Hold on. Do manatees have... Okay, real manatees are mostly bald actually. Okay. Anyway, I got half a yard of the yellow and 1.5 yards of the white, and that was enough for both plushie attempts with still a lot to spare. So if you're making just one, you'll probably need way less. But now that you have your fabric, you're ready to start. Yay! Except you're not. Patterning is one of the hardest steps in sewing, because if you draft your pattern wrong, you can end up with something that's just weird looking. For this, I had no idea where to even start. And so a while ago, I learned about a website called Plushify that can turn 3D models into patterns. And of course, I know 3D. I downloaded all these different perspective shots of the plush from the website and put them into Blender. And I really wanted to film the sculpting process with this, but it nuked itself. Once I had a model I was happy with, I marked out where the seams would be and unwrapped the sections onto a UV map. A UV map is pretty much just a sewing pattern for 3D objects, and marking these seams just tells the program where you want the model to be cut. Then I exported the manatee as an OBJ and opened it in Plushify. It asks some questions here about which way the plush should be facing, and then if you would like to use the existing UV map. This is what we marked out in Blender, so hit yes. Here you can name the sections of the pattern, mark out colors, and even adjust the seams if you need to. If an area is really red, it means you need to add more seams to keep the shape. The website also lets you adjust the size and gives you various objects and this 3D guy to make the comparison easier. When you've chosen the right size, it'll actually tell you how much fabric you need of each color you picked out, which is really nice. You can then save the pattern, and it will create a PDF of printable pages according to the size that you chose. Then you can take this pattern to the printer. But when cutting the pattern out, make sure you take note of any pieces that are spread across multiple sheets of paper, which will have to be taped together later to create the section. Also, make sure you're paying attention and don't accidentally cut through your seam allowance. Then you can take all your pattern pieces and lay them on the fabric to cut it out. Now for some advice. This may seem super obvious, but in my infinite wisdom, I used a yellow marker and pink chalk pencil on my first plush because I figured the plush is light colors. These are light colors and won't show through. And you can definitely see all the marks from the outside. So for the second plush, I did some research and I found that ultra washable markers were good for this. So I went out and got a box. Anyway, then you can cut the pieces out. Wait, if you're using Minky or anything similar, I'm warning you right now. Once these pieces are cut, you will have all that fluff absolutely everywhere. On your table, on your clothes, in your mouth. I'm not joking. Make sure your area and anything you don't want completely covered in fluff is protected. Anyway, now you can cut. Once you have all the pieces cut out, it's pretty simple. Yeah, it's not. With how stretchy the fabric is, and with hand sewing these big pieces together, I got a lot of rippling. So I had to rip out seams and redo some of these sections several times. I don't make genuine tutorials like this, so I'm struggling so bad with what else to say. At this point, they usually say something about safety with sharp objects and how young people should ask a trusted adult to help them, but I'm an adult and stabbed myself with this nasty looking needle probably a million times during this, so I probably need my own designated sharp objects person. Once I had everything all sewn up with an opening left for the stuffing, I washed the guidelines off. I tried to rinse this in the sink and it made the sink orange, so I had to switch to soaking it in a plastic bag to get all the ink off, but luckily it all rinsed out. When the fabric was dry, I started stuffing. I had about 2/3 of this big 12-ounce bag and hoped it would be enough, but it ended up filling up only half of it. I couldn't get to the craft store to buy more stuffing, so I ended up going out and buying a cheap pillow and gutting it, which actually worked pretty well. The pillow stuffing is way firmer than the plushie stuffing, which ended up being great for the main body to give it more structure. And then I used the softer plushie stuffing in the flippers and tail to keep them squishy. It did eat most of this pillow, so be aware if you're making this the same size I did. This is also where I decided to add weight to it. This project was actually a secret gift for my longtime friend Moz, who I met in person for the first time at the Two Embers screening. When I made my first plush, she actually suggested the weight beads, plus the Sky Shop plush apparently has therapeutic beads in the flippers too, so I kept this in the back of my mind while I was plotting all this. I looked at the weight on the website and decided to buy a small 10.5-ounce bag of these cheaper beads, but when it arrived, it didn't feel like enough. Plus they were kind of rough and crunchy, which isn't very therapeutic. So I went and bought a 2-pound bag of actual poly pellets. Full disclaimer, I didn't use this entire bag in the plush, even though it felt like it, but the poly pellets were much smoother and actually slid against each other. So I put some of these in the flippers and tail by filling some small bags I made out of leftover nylon, and then I put the crunchier pellets in the body. But once it was all stuffed with all the beads in the correct place, I closed it up. Then I did a little bit of maintenance on it by combing the fur in the right direction and using a lint roller to clean up any lingering fluff. I'm actually so happy with how this plush turned out compared to my last one. This is definitely the biggest thing that I've ever sewn, and as you can tell, I learned a lot while making it. But like I said before, I have the pattern available in different sizes in the description for you to use if you'd like. And if you end up making it, I'd love to see it. Taking it to the screening was so much fun. I went out and got a sparkly gift bag, which I got because it felt very sky to me, but ended up being the exact size of the plush, weirdly enough. And then I took it with me on the train and metro, everything. It was so big, it needed its own seat. I'm so glad that Moz loved it, but it was also such a huge hit with everyone else we met outside the theater. Everyone was asking to hold it, squish it, take pictures of it, and I felt so proud hearing all the compliments. Someone even passed by and said they had to buy it once it was back in stock, so I may have accidentally done some influencing for Sky Shop. That said, I was also told it was way bigger than the Sky Shop one, even though I used the dimensions from the website, so that was pretty funny. Here I was thinking that the Sky Shop one was also this massive, but apparently not. The manatee was totally pampered throughout the night. The bag, not so much, but it served its purpose well.